Hello YouTube, this is Dazza the Cameraman. Today is Sunday the 26th of July 2015 and this is an update on videos from Igor Kostelac or Separated Society regarding Nibiru. Now Igor uploaded this video last night New Zealand time on how to locate Nibiru in the sky. In this video, first of all, Igor presents some information about how cameras work. And he says, before we start, you must first learn the difference between the human eye and the camera. So here are some facts that you must learn. If you already ignore these facts before we even start. So we go through and there is all this information about how the cameras work, all about sensitivity, about ISO settings, lux, all that sort of thing. And then once we've been through all of that, then we get some text explaining about where to look in the sky to see Nibiru. So at about 3 minutes into the video, we read here that now when we know these facts, that is about the cameras, it's clearly visible that we don't need a telescope but rather a good and high resolution HD color camera which has possible to set an ISO exposure manually to a higher value. So let me be straight with this rule. The light that appears in the Scorpio constellation is not visible with a human eye, but is visible with the sensitive ISO camera settings. The second and very important is that you must have an astronomical program. I recommend you Starry Night, Backyard, or Stellarium in a worst case. What you need to do is find in the astronomical program the position of Scorpio constellation and locate on which side of the world this is located placed. For that precision orientation you will need simply and standard compass. Well, now the last but unfortunately the most important thing is your location with the view on the certain part of the horizon where the altitude of the horizon is not higher than 30 to 40 meters above the sea. This is why I use panorama cameras, because I don't have that kind of view in my home location, not even nowhere near. The closest is about 100 kilometers away. But you who has a beautiful long view at the very low horizon, you are lucky bastards who can easily take beautiful photos in this early stage. In November, this won't be necessary anymore because the visibility will be possible with naked eye, but only in the case that the sky is not cloudy, which I personally doubt. So for owners of the photo camera with rich ISO choice, this is a perfect opportunity to make beautiful photos if they live on the right place. Very simple, but under certain very advanced condition. Well, just to back up to the top there, the first thing that Igor says that we need is a sensitive ISO camera with HD color, what he says a rather good and high resolution HD color camera which has a possibility to set an ISO exposure manually to a higher value. Well, it so happens that I have one of these cameras which belongs to the observatory that I'm a member of, and it's a Canon EOS 60DA DSLR camera. Now the normal version is a 60D. We have the 60DA. The A stands for astrophotography. Now this camera has been factory modified so that it doesn't have the infrared cut filter in it, which removes the infrared range, which is normally cut out in cameras. This is why some cameras are modified by people. We've recently seen Crow 777 modify a camera so that he can also get the infrared wavelength. Now this is not a true infrared camera as such, but as I say, it does not have the infrared cut filter that ordinary DSLR cameras do, like the ones that Igor is recommending here, and indeed like the one that is used at the Starnberger C webcam. It is in fact a Canon 1100D. So this camera is a DSLR which does in fact have the high ISO exposure that you can set manually. And it does have the ability to take long exposures such as 30-second exposures or even longer if you use an intervalometer. And of course I also have the other thing that Igor recommended, which was Starry Night. I have Starry Night Pro version 6. and from that we can check and confirm the position of Scorpio. Now, I saw this video just before 11 PM last night, New Zealand time. I saw that Igor had uploaded this video. So on reading through his video, I thought, fantastic, because I happen to know that Scorpio is high in the sky at the moment, as seen from New Zealand at night. So I grabbed that Canon 60DA camera and I rushed outside and I set it up on the tripod and I aimed it at Scorpio and I took a series of photos. So let's have a look at Starry Night and see where Scorpio is in the sky at that time. So this is the view from my location at 4 minutes past 11 on July, I'll just bring that back to July 25, which was last night. And as we can see, we've got the constellation of Scorpius, or Scorpio, the Scorpion, fairly high in the sky. And at the moment, if I center that, we are looking at an altitude of about 60 degrees that you can see there. So there's Scorpio, the Scorpion, nice and high in my sky at 11 PM. And let's have a look at the photos that I took last night. Okay, I'm just going to flick, I'll zoom in here so you can see the shape of the constellation marked out with the lines there. Okay, and I'll just flick backwards and forwards as I show the shape of the Scorpion in the sky. So here is the tail, here is the end of the tail, and we're curving around, and then we're coming down the body here, and this is the head end here. Now this reddish star here is the star called Antares, which is the heart of the Scorpion. So I'll just flick backwards and forwards, and hopefully you can sort of get an idea of that. Yeah, it's a bit hard to see on here. Where is Antares? Where are we? There it is. That's Antares there, that star there. Okay, which is this one here. So this was taken, this was a 10-second exposure that I took. As you can see, we've got a bright light source down the bottom of the image, which is actually the moon. So if I flick back to Starry Night and just zoom out here, you can see that the moon is right there and we've got Saturn there. So obviously I didn't want to have the moon in my image because it's fairly bright. It's first quarter, and that's why we've got so much light in the sky at the moment. We can see that the little puffy clouds are quite well illuminated from the moonlight. But there is Scorpio, nice and bright. I'll flick through the images and I'm going to go backwards. Let me see. Okay, I just froze there for a minute. Okay, so I'm going to step backwards and point out where the Scorpion is. There's the tail curving down, there's Antares. Let's go back. Now, these are the first images I took where I had the camera set at a higher f-stop setting, so that meant that the aperture was not open as much, and so we had less light coming in. So although we can see more of the shape of Scorpio, the constellation there, without all of the other stars, it means that we can't see the other stars and objects in the sky as well. So there is the first image that I took. There is Scorpio there, okay, centered, and then stepping forward again, I moved the camera around so that we could see more of the sky. And again, this is the moon, and this here, that is a lens flare from the moon because it was just out of view. So stepping forward, and again the moon is down here, and you can see a little lens flare just down here behind the plus there. That is a lens flare, it's not Nibiru. So as far as I can see, I don't see Nibiru right where Igor tells us it should be. Now I'm using a high ISO camera. The ISO setting here was set to 3200, and as I say, it was a 10-second exposure, and if I'd set the ISO or the exposure time any longer than that, then because of the bright moonlight we would have everything would have been drowned out in light. And unfortunately for the next few nights the moon is actually going to be cutting through Scorpio and getting bigger and brighter, and then it's heading towards a full moon, which means that the sky is going to be full of moonlight. But there we have it, no sign of Nibiru. So, and this is with a 60DA. As I say, the A stands for astrophotography, so it has the modified filter, or in fact, in the factory they've left out the infrared cut filter. It hasn't been modified, they've simply left out the cut filter. If you get the standard camera, then you have to modify it to actually remove that filter if you want to do good astrophotography and have those reds and infrared colors, the hydrogen alpha spectrum that we're looking at there. See, as I zoom in, you can see some of the reds here, and again, this is cloud, but there we go. We can see millions of stars as I zoom in, but no sign of Nibiru. And according to Igor, we need to use a high ISO camera with manual exposure, manual ISO setting, and even better, as I say, this one does not have the infrared cut filter in it, so we're actually seeing the infrared into the infrared spectrum in this. So Igor, maybe you can explain why I'm not seeing Nibiru in these images. I can take some more for you over the next several nights, and preferably when the moon is out of the sky. Let's just have a look at that. I'll just zoom out a little bit, and I'll step this forward one day at a time, and we will see that the moon is going to cut through Scorpio, or just off the end of Scorpio, so it's going to create a lot of light. So by the 28th of July, let's have a look at the phase of the moon. We can see that the moon is actually getting pretty big there. So it's, what have we got? Nearly 12 days old. Full moon is 14 days old, so that moon's going to be pretty bright and drowning out a lot of the sky with moonlight. So there we have it. We followed your instructions, Igor, and no sign of Nibiru. Where is it? I can't see it.